2024 Mercedes-AMG GT2 racer first drive, quicker than GT4, less demanding than GT3. Mercedes-AMG's latest factory racer is engineered to make amateur drivers level up to pros. The name, most likely says everything. The GT2 racer form of the 2024 Mercedes-AMG GT car should be edgier, meaner, and obviously faster than its GT3 kin. All things considered, the AMG GT3 racer we drove back in 2019 addressed a huge step over the GT4 form, with more power and more downforce and a reason-constructed frame and suspension that could be all the more finely tuned to convey a definitive lap time. The lower the number, the more serious the race vehicle, isn't that so? Not all that quick. The new GT2, the latest in a string of impeccably engineered factory-built sports racers from Mercedes-AMG, is not the next level above GT3 and GT4, but in fact instead a halfway house between the two. It's a car designed to be quicker than the entry-level GT4, but not as demanding at the limit as the pro racer GT3. The GT2 name. You can thank Stéphane Ratel, the entrepreneurial Frenchman, who has shaped modern sports car racing since 1995. Ratel's SRO Motorsports Group created the modern GT4 and GT3 categories, helping define the rules for the cars and organizing races for them. In 2018 he conceived of a new category designed for amateur drivers who wanted something that was higher powered than GT4 racers but less specialized than the GT3 cars. Though GT2 was planned from the outset as a tweener category, Ratel figured it made no commercial sense to rebrand the wildly successful GT3 category, which enjoys huge support from automakers and race fans, simply to satisfy some notion of performance hierarchy. So, GT2 it is. And, based on our time behind the wheel of the Mercedes-AMG GT2 at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, just outside of Valencia, Spain, it is indeed the halfway house between GT4 and GT3. This Mercedes has the power and performance to thrill even the most jaded GT4 driver but doesn't require the GT3's pro driver levels of skill and commitment to extract a fast lap time out of it. The AMG GT2 is based on the AMG GT track series, the AMG GT4 derived track day monster we tested last year. Under the hood is the same bellowing dry sump, flat plane crank 4.0-litre twin-turbo V8, which is bolted by way of a carbon fiber torque tube to the sequential shift 6-speed Hewland transaxle transmission used in both the GT3 and GT4 race cars. To comply with GT2 regulations, the engine produces slightly less power and torque than it does in the track series, 697 horsepower and 590 pounds-to-foot of torque, versus 724 horsepower and 627 pounds-to-foot, but that's still enough to make it the most potent of the Mercedes-AMG GT factory racers. By way of comparison, the GT3's naturally aspirated 6.3-litre V8 makes about 550 horsepower, and the GT4's engine, essentially identical to that of the track series and GT2, is tuned to produce between 400 horsepower and 510 horsepower, depending on the balance of performance regulations under which the car is racing. Other differences between the GT2 and the track series, pictured directly above, include a longer top gear that allows the GT2 to hit 201 miles per hour on a long straightaway, a new rear wing that allows more adjustability and, crucially, delivers more downforce, plus full race, center-lock 18-inch wheels. The GT2 also gets improved engine and brake cooling, an acknowledgement this car is meant to race in close company rather than merely turn a few hot laps in splendid isolation at a track day. Indeed, says development driver Thomas Jaeger, whose career honing race cars for Mercedes-AMG dates to the SLS GT3, the GT2 can be ordered with an endurance race package that comprises a special light system, a drink system, number illumination, a quick refill engine oil appliance and a full tank display. The multi-link suspension features race-spec 3-way adjustable shocks that can be tuned in both compression and rebound, and are height adjustable. The front and rear camber settings and front and rear stabilizer bars are also manually adjustable. The brakes use the 15.4-inch front and 14.0-inch rear steel rotors used on the GT3 and GT4 race cars. A balance bar allows the front to rear brake bias to be adjusted. As is common practice in modern GT racing, the GT2 comes equipped with traction control and anti-lock brake systems, each of which is independently adjustable across 12 settings. The cockpit has the same user-friendly layout as the other AMG racers. The butterfly steering wheel tilts and telescopes, and there's a center console with large and fluorescent highlighted switchgear that can be easily found and operated, even at night, with racing gloves on. The driver's seat is fixed, but a lever adjacent to the carbon fiber center console controls a spring-loaded pedal box. To get the right driving position, put your foot on the brake pedal, pull the lever, and push the pedals away from you. When they're at the right distance, let go of the lever and they're locked into place. This is a race car thoughtfully designed to accommodate drivers of all shapes and sizes. According to Mercedes-AMG figures, the GT2's baseline weight is 3,086 pounds, though its racing weight may be higher, with extra mass added to satisfy the category's balance of performance regulations. That puts it within about 150 pounds of the GT3's claimed minimum weight, attention getting when you consider you have 26% more power and 22% more torque under your right foot. But here's where the performance calculus gets interesting. The GT2 might have more power and torque than the GT3, but it also has only 50 to 55% of the downforce, says Jaeger. That makes its dynamic limits easier for amateur drivers to access, particularly through fast corners, where the more stiffly suspended GT3's superior aero makes it harder to sense the edge of adhesion, and where, because you're traveling at a higher speed than the GT2 can manage, you need much quicker reactions to catch the car when the slicks finally surrender to the limits of physics. While the AMG GT3 is still arguably the most accessible of the current crop of GT3 race cars for a non-pro driver, it only takes a handful of laps to understand the GT2 is a far more approachable machine. The snarling power of the flat-plane crank V8 turbo motor is underpinned by a broad foundation of torque that keeps you out of trouble when learning an unfamiliar track. In third, when you really should be in second. No problem. The GT2 grunts past the apex, then clears its throat and storms down the straightaway. As with the GT3, you can lean on the traction control, using it to learn where you need to modulate the throttle or take a better line. And it doesn't take too long before you start to dial back the intervention threshold a notch or two, such is the confidence the GT2 quickly instills. You can brake deep into corners, accelerate hard out of them, and you can clearly feel what the tires are doing. It's fast and loud, this Mercedes, but not fearsome. Pay attention, and the GT2 will help you improve your driving. Every one of my 10 push laps at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo was quicker than my previous lap, and when I finally stepped out of the car, I knew exactly where I could easily find still more time, braking deeper here, getting on the gas earlier there, even before I looked at the data traces in the back of the garage. Mind you, those same traces also show how good the pros are. When overlaid against mine, they revealed Thomas Jaeger was hitting the brake pedal much later, with twice the pressure, and going full throttle through corners I was still tentatively exploring. But equally, that shows how much potential there is in the GT2. In the right hands it is a seriously quick and accomplished racing car. The new Mercedes-AMG GT2 is fully matured as it enters the stage, capable of winning straight away, it says on the glossy promotional brochure. That doesn't feel like an idle boast. All Mercedes-AMG race cars are sold direct from the factory, priced in euro. On current exchange rates, the GT2 will cost about $440,000 to $450,000, plus shipping and taxes. No, it's not cheap, But it's a much less expensive a car to run than a full-race GT3, which in endurance race specification now costs about $530,000 plus shipping and taxes, and even if you wanted one of those, you couldn't have one as they're all sold out. The GT2 engine is good for almost 25,000 racing miles between rebuilds, says Thomas Yeager, and the transmission, pending an inspection at 8,000 miles, should not need touching until 11,000 miles. The GT2 is eligible to run in the GT America series, which comprises single-driver 40-minute sprint races, and in the 2024 Fanatec GT World Challenge America series, which kicks off at Sonoma Raceway in April, and includes rounds at storied tracks, such as Sebring, Circuit of the Americas, and Road America. And if you don't want to race it, you don't have to. If you have the money but not the time, Mercedes-AMG says the GT2 is almost perfect for track days. Almost? After selling all 55 of the 2023 Track Series cars, Affalterbach has developed a follow-up track day weapon. It's called the GT2 Pro, and the main difference between it and the regular GT2 is a push-to-pass function that unleashes 739 horsepower when you press a button on the steering wheel. Priced at about $520,000 for the GT2 Pro, which cannot be raced in anything other than special AMG organized events, it's significantly more expensive than the standard GT2 that can race everywhere. But as the old saying goes, speed costs money. How fast do you want to go?